Hey guys, I'm Mr. Jr. here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie The Razing. If you have been enjoying this full review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition, second it there to my Patreon and PayPal, and fourth to my Discord server. Any and all donations are greatly appreciated, and shilling will be reminded at the end of the review. With that out of the way, let's get into The Razing. So, first and foremost, I did not see any trailers from this, I just came across it, so based on the movie's quality as well, I will also say that this is probably a more low-budgeted movie. But regardless, I am still going to review this movie objectively, so I do have to point out things such as the pretty bad quality in transitioning for whenever it would slide from character to character. The movie would get have this blur effect that didn't correspond to just traversing from character to character, therefore being completely irrelevant. There are scenes later in the movie that are indicative of people taking drugs, which might have been what that was trying to be saved for, but it is consistent throughout the movie. The second and more notable thing is that the actors acting in this movie are pretty generic in their acting ability here, which is usually another heavy sign that this is a low-budget movie. So there's quite a few things to put together the pieces that this is, well, that. In short, The Razing, from what I could understand of it, is that it is a group of 5 to 6 people, I think it's 6, that go to this party, despite being weak friends, and just spending time at this so-called party, as apparently the end of the world, or as it's called in the movie, The Razing, is taking place, apparently. So, that is the general thing about this. So it's sort of like a combination of like the bodies movie, where it's like these people that aren't really great friends are with each other. And then there was like another movie I had watched where it was like about this very subject, about like the end of the world, and like what option would pick to like stick with your family, or like go out and see if it really was the end of the world type of movie. So yeah, you know, pretty combined things here. So the movie starts out, and again we start with a pretty blurry scene. We have some characters, and like the names Link, Ray, and Core, and Claire, and we learn pretty early that they used to be school friends, the lot of them, and Ellie is the new person in the group among them, and she's even the reason why they're doing this on top of everything, according to Core anyway. So they also state that this is the reason that they still do this is due to some pact that is made very clear very later on in the movie what that pact was. So there are 2 sets of couples within the 6. We have sort of the big burly guy, and I believe he's with Claire, ? Though him and Core are sort of like in a triangle, or more like a square with Ellie too, I guess. And then there's the gay couple in the movie as well. And they're arguing already. As I said, they aren't really at the best of odds throughout pretty much the majority of the movie. So we learn a little bit about, again, what this Razing is. And the lights go out very briefly. one of the two of the guys, Milo, talks with Ellie very briefly. There are obviously quite a few conversation here. And after some of these talks, there are various drugs brought in of varying different colors, and I think the whole idea about these unique drugs is that each color has like a different effect. And that they used to be used as experiments, and yeah. So, Claire is joined by Ray at some point earlier in the party. They get all talking about emotions, they make out. Core interrupts them and says, like, oh, you're doing the drugs or whatever. This is where the movie gets a little bit abruptive as well, is that the movie does have quite a few flashbacks as well. And due to the nature of it being in such a identical, well, it is an identical place, it did take a bit for me to realize that, oh, they're in a flashback now. Which is like a younger Claire and Josh making out or whatever. And Core going through his emotional moment and, you know, making his moves on with Ellie. And we have some more making out as this party's like progressing. Milo pushes his partner towards the wall. Trying to remember what was his the other guy's name was. It was Milo and someone else. My notes aren't that well written for this review, but that's because it was very conversation heavy, but very hard to like stay focused on. Anyways, so Claire and Ray go for some drugs. They make out, and in the process, Milo is gone. Like, gone. So Core heads out to bed, not wanting to deal with anything anymore. And Ellie joins him, though. Meanwhile, we have Claire hanging out with Ray and Link. We have a little moment with Claire and Ellie, so the two ladies have a little moment as well after the fact. This is where we get another flashback where the mom of one of the characters, Link, we saw him earlier in the movie, who's freaking out on him. Then, as we cut back, the flashback, by the way, it seems like the most disconnected from the movie. And again, I think like some of the other flashbacks might have been in that same vein, where it's just like I'm not really sure what it's trying to push or like tell us about the the rest of what's going on here. So we see certain parts like the cake burning up, which is I guess a part of this whole Razing deal. So Core has a little moment with Claire about wanting to see more. Proceeds to knock her out. And we have more flashbacks of just them taking drugs, and again, very unnecessary flashback. We have a moment where Core thinks about his father, so we have that, and the father's killed. And they see how the others are reacting, and I think that this is the only flashback that has the most, or any relevance to, like, the plot, because it's talking about, like, why they made their pact in the first place, because of this whole event. And threatens Claire in the process. He admits that he's dying to the rest of the group. We see in the flashback Core breaking, or talking to with Ellie. He's held back, and Claire is helped out in the process. And he's just yelling at Ray, and he goes for the stabbing Ray. We see that Ellie has the capability of burning one of the characters, Link. We have, and Cora kisses her, I guess. And we have, as the fire is spreading throughout the entire house, Cora having his last little moments there. And again, we have the final flashback of the finale of, like, the official part of the pact, because it's split up between two segments, I guess. And that was the Razing. Yeah, I will say that this movie definitely does struggle in quite a number of ways. It is really hard to tell what the narrative is. Through these rather simplistic but vague sort of dialogue, sort of discussions that these characters have. I think that using the new character, the one who apparently is responsible for the Razing, to sort of help us as the audience understand what the characters are doing and all that process, probably would have been a much better way of going about doing this. In terms of just having, like, some sort of connecting thread to the events, or like a new character that isn't established to be responsible or be a part of the typical gang, like, again, just a new person being invited. Probably would have helped sufficiently with sort of having a way to navigate through the entire story, as well as having the flashbacks be correlated to, like, say, once we are introduced to one of the characters, if there is a flashback associated with that character that helps us understand that character, then it can play at that point. But other than that, I don't think that the flashbacks are necessary, unless you were talking about, again, the last set of ones, which is, again, the whole reason why they're in this whole ordeal in the first place. Letting your actors, give them a little bit of a variety in their, in what they're doing. Again, it feels like once the drugs are in play, and the whole characters are just making out, it does feel a bit like you can almost indistinguish between any of the sets of pairs, pretty much. So there isn't any real heavy distinguish. I feel like they try to attempt to make out of all of the six characters, like, Core seems to be, like, the one that is the most, like, outwardly from the rest. But I do feel like, in a way that doesn't really, that isn't quite, that obviously isn't quite enough. And the push isn't quite heavy enough either. And obviously the working on transitions and making sure that we have a little bit more focus on, camera work, and making sure that, there isn't blur where there doesn't need to be, and all that really, really basic stuff. I do feel like there could be a lot to, a story like this. Again, I saw another movie like this that was like an end of the world sort of scenario where, like, people were, like, deciding again whether to live or die, or, like, wait it out. And that was an interesting movie. I forget what it's called though, but so I do think that there's stuff here that could be, like, really, really, you could take a lot out of it, and you could put a lot in there in the first place. And I think a lot of that can come from trying to avoid a lot of this weird vagueness that doesn't really tell me much of anything. There does seem to be at least some sort of consistency with like everybody being like bad. There seems to be like the one element that seems to be like they keep mentioning it with their parents and all that stuff. That seems to be like the thread that is the only thing that sort of binds them all together. But I feel like you need, you need a little bit more than just that. You need people with different ideals, different ways of, going about thinking. Maybe there is that positive person despite, what's going on, or that could even be the new person, again, since they would be new to whatever this is, they would likely have the most positive outcome. But that is just like me trying to say like how to improve this type of movie for you new writers or writers of the movie. Trying to say like, it was a low budget movie, so let me give you some feedback here if you ever come across this video. I've had that happen before, so that's why I feel obligated to say that just in case, that happens again. As for an objective score, I'd probably, unfortunately, give it like a 3 out of 10. It's just not a strong movie quite yet. There are obviously quite a number of flaws. But there is, like, very few elements, again, like, there's that element of consistency that I talked about, like, there's something there, so I don't want to give it, like, something too ridiculously low. I've obviously seen worse than this as well, from higher budgeted movies, nonetheless, so I think I'll stick with a 3 out of 10, and that is my full review of the movie The Razing. So if you ended up enjoying it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition, the first one will head you over to my, my petition, second and third will head you to my Patreon and PayPal, and fourth to my Discord server. Any and all donations are greatly appreciated. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye!